Hello YouTube, it's the coach of the New York Mankeys, Avatar Korra, or Maui Goomba if you prefer, and I'm here to break down my Season 7 League of Extraordinary Trainers draft picks. Starting off, the way the draft system is constructed is we're given 1,020 points to spend on different tiers. S plus tier costs 220, S tier costs 200, A plus 180, A 160, B plus 140, B 120, C plus 100, C 80, D 60, E 40, and F 20. We are required to draft a Pokemon from each of the A, B, C, D, E, and F tiers. S tier wasn't required, but they had some of the better mons like Dracovish and the Urshifus. Furthermore, the league has banned Gigantamaxi and Dynamaxi for this season, so there won't be any picking of those. Honestly, I'm okay with that. I haven't been a huge fan of in other leagues I've played. I think one big ban that is notable to mention is the Baton Pass clause. We are allowed to only Dry Pass. With that stated, without further ado, let's get into this team. So I was relegated to 10th pick in the draft, which is unfortunate, but we made do, and I really do like the team we have. I was praying that one of the Urshifus would fall to me. I would grab that in a heartbeat. It was an S plus tier, but totally worth it. Unfortunately, they were picked 2nd and 4th in the draft. I should mention this is the Rapid Strike division. When my pick came to me, Dracovish was available, but I ended up swapping. I did not go for Dracovish. I ended up picking, hold on. I ended up picking Volcarona. Looking back at it, if I grab Dracovish, I can't grab Volcarona because Volcarona is also an S tier. This is a just straight up S tier, not an S plus like Dracovish. But you're only allowed to draft one S tier, so it was either this or Dracovish. And personally, I just kind of wanted to use Volcarona. I'm gonna be honest. Although Dracovich's typing is pretty insane too, but so is Volcarona's. So got a major buff in Gen 8 with the addition of heavy duty boots, so it can just straight ignore the problem it had in previous gens. I don't think I have to go into why this thing's a monster, but let's break it down a bit. Bug Fire is actually an incredible typing. If you ignore the Stealth Rock weakness, which Heavy Duty Boots obviously, as previously stated, does, it's only weak to Rock, Water, and Flying. It gets Quiver Dance and Fiery Dance. If I can get it in safely on something and get a Quiver Dance set up, I don't think there's anything that wants to take a Fiery Dance or Bug Buzz from this thing. And it gets Roost, which honestly I looked it up and I didn't know this until a little while ago. That's insane. So like I could actually just bring in a sub Quiver Dance, Roost, Fiery Dance set, and the only thing that wants to really take it is probably a Fire Absorb. Altogether, this is the best pick I could have taken besides Dracovish, honestly, and I wasn't up for it. Zeraora wasn't available either. That got picked, and I was actually kind of wanting Zeraora too, but what are you going to do? Next up, I think I made a mistake grabbing my A tier so soon, because there was a B tier that's really big that ended up getting sniped from me, but I went for my A tier next. I grabbed Tyranitar. So I wasn't really looking at it as a sand setter because I don't know how well that's going to pair up with Volcarona. I mean, the chip damage could definitely help Volcarona get some free kills, or even just T-Tar in general. But I was looking at it more as a way to resist Volcarona's flying weakness. Also, obviously, this adds a water weakness, but they complement each other really well altogether, because it walls the flying types that hit Volcarona. Volcarona walls the fighting types that would hit Tyranitar. I don't need to bring Sand, like I said, because of Unnerve, but my opponent will always have to prep with the idea that I could bring a Sand team. As you'll see later on in the draft, I do grab a couple of Sand Abusers. So the next pick, I knew I wanted something to wall water types, and it has one of the best special attacks in Gen 8, if not the best special defense in Gen 8. I wanted Goodra, but it got sniped, so I kind of fell back from that plan and grabbed a B plus Pokemon instead of the B tier that Goodra would have been. I wanted good steel type because I was focused on getting a dragon, fairy, steel, water, grass, fire core, and I wanted to grab the steel type while I could because I really like the steel type. I've used it in previous gens, and it's always put in work for me. Previous gens and drafts. I grabbed Skarmory. It's a really solid mon. It's a great rock setter because it could just be a suicide lead with sturdy, or you could bring hold on, I gotta see what the ability is because I can't think of it off the top of my head. You could bring Keen Eye so it can't have its accuracy lowered, but that's lowering accuracy is banned. So it doesn't really matter. Weak Armor is the ability I'm thinking of though. Loses defense, but gets a +2 to speed. It could just be a good reverse sweeper, honestly. It's a premier defog setter in my opinion. So or defog setter, defog user. So I don't think I need to explain much more about why I grabbed this. It's a really solid Pokemon and pretty worth it in B+, I'd say. It was a good Pokemon. Next up, I finally grabbed something that actually walls water types fairly well and can kill them in return. I have actually used Skarmory and this Pokemon in conjunction with each other a couple of times, and I really like it. We grabbed Rotom Wash. It's got, I believe, base 107 defense and special defense, which is actually really good, all things considered. It's, 107 defense, 107 special defense, 105 special attack. It's a really solid Pokemon, and it's not completely set up to just be like a defensive Pokemon. I could bring Choice Scarf, Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, Trick, and like Hex maybe, or something like that. Actually, if I brought Hex, I'd probably bring Discharge, but that's beside the point. Like, you don't have to just bring a defensive set, and versatility is so key for Draft League, in my opinion. Like, your opponent could expect one set, you bring an entirely different thing, and you destroy them because they were prepping for a different set than what you brought. I love that part of Draft League the most. So I had fire, I had water, I needed grass, and I also wanted to grab fairy while I was at it. I grabbed both at the same time. I think there's only a couple of Pokemon that are grass fairy, and this is Sword and Shield, so it was Whimsicott we grabbed next. I wanted to grab the dragon type soon, but this was coming up to my 10th pick, not down, and the next two people after me had already grabbed dragon picks, so I wasn't too worried about losing my dragon pick to them. So I ended up grabbing Whimsicott. It's a excellent Leech Seed user because of Prankster. Getting priority Leech Seed, Sub, or Tailwind are going to be huge, and it has base 116 speed, so I don't absolutely have to bring Prankster on it because it'll outspeed a lot anyway, but I feel like Prankster just makes a lot of sense because Infiltrate is the only other ability that I'd probably run. Which isn't bad either, though. Infiltrator's an excellent ability. So I grabbed my dragon pick next. This is the first point in the draft where I draft something that has the same type of something else. But the thing about it is they overlap in typing, but not in weaknesses at all, so I don't really feel like it's a bad thing. Grab Duraludon. Completing the fairy dragon, steel core with a steel dragon type. I mean, technically I don't need Skarmory for the steel, but they don't share weaknesses. Like, Duraludon is weak to ground and fighting. Skarmory is weak to electric and fire. They don't share the weaknesses, and that's pretty good for me, I think. Like, if you're going to overlap types, if they don't have the same weakness, I feel like that's a really good way to go about it. I wanted to add more water type resistances eventually. Don't believe I did with the next pick, however. I'm checking right now. Next pick, I also needed a ground type, like something to stop Volt Switch from being a problem if people bring Volt Switch. Also Ghost type for Spin Blocker. Runerigus was the next pick. Another Rock Setter while also having access to Trick Room, so I have both Tailwind on Whims and Trick Room on Runerigus. I can run a lot of sets with having both of these Pokemon on my roster. I could bring a very slow team with Runerigus, or I could bring a team just meant to destroy my opponent with speed with Whimsicott. I really like this idea a lot. I think having both of these is going to make it really hard to prep for my team because I could bring both, honestly. Might not be the best idea, but I mean, they're not going to expect me to bring both Trick Room and Tailwind. I mean, they might now if they watch this video, but let's just ignore that. With my eighth pick, I wanted a fast electric type, and Jolteon was taken, but I wasn't sold on this originally, and I ended up getting rid of it. But I did pick a Alolan Raichu. This morning, however, I decided that my next three picks, I did not grab a Cleric or like anything to deal with statuses, so I traded a Alolan Raichu out for something else in the D tier, Vileplume. So this is my real 8th member of the team. It's a really solid Pokemon. It gets reliable recovery. 110 base special attack is really good too. The typing is phenomenal. Grass Poison being one of the best. It's a water resistance that I didn't have before. Although it does add a flying weakness, but I have quite a bit of flying resistances, so I'm not worried about that at all. Next up, I don't know if I had to pick it right away, but I didn't lose any of my other picks for going for this. It was the F tier. So a little background about the F tier. They're all NFEs, and they're required mostly because of how the format on the dock works. It needed an 11th Pokemon, and they didn't want us to draft like another good Pokemon, so they just had us use 20 points to draft an F tier. I grabbed Dracloak. It has 102 base speed, so it's not the slowest thing in the world, but it does have a low base, or like low 80 attack, 60 special attack. I don't know if I'll ever have a reason to bring this, but if I do, it'll be fun to bring, I think. I don't believe it gets Dragon Dance, so if I could get it behind a substitute, I could sweep somebody with this, but I don't think that's going to happen because you can't baton pass subs, so. Next pick, like I said, I didn't really have Sand Abusers at this point. The next two picks are both Sand Abusers. I don't know how often I'll actually bring a Sand team, but having, like, if I don't draft stuff with Sand Abuse, people are just going to expect Unnerved Tyranitar every single time, and I want them to have to prep for the idea that I bring Sandstream. So with the next pick, I didn't have a spinner yet either, and the options were kind of low in the E tier. And I grabbed Sandslash. It gets 130 base, or like speed in Sand. It's 65 normally. I think that's really good. I think, it also has Sandveil, but unfortunately Sandveil's banned, so I'm not going to go into that at all. It has a good 100, it's got a decent 100 attack stat. I'd say, overall, for an E-tier Pokemon, it's a fairly valuable pick for this team, because, like I said, no Sand Abusers. The last pick I picked was also an E-tier. It was the Ramones, Alolan Dugtrio. It gets Sand Forest, and it has 110 base speed, so it doesn't have Sand Rush, it has Sand Forest, as I said. It also gets Sandveil and Tangling Hair. Sandveil being banned, as previously stated, but Tangling Hair, I could bring it in on a physical Pokemon that's using contact moves, and if it lives a hit, it'll outspeed it almost guaranteed. I really like that idea. Overall, I'd say this team's pretty good, in my opinion. Like, I feel comfortable with my picks. I've never actually used a lot of these in draft leagues, but I also took a break from draft league for a while, so I'm looking forward to being able to use these in Sword and Shield, and I'm also just generally looking forward to, getting a chance to play against really good players in the LET, and I think this will be a fun season to play then. I don't know if I'll actually, post my battles at all. I just wanted to do a draft analysis for the Discord to look at. And if there's one more slide on this, it's my stat blocks and type weaknesses with Alolan Raichu, because it hadn't been updated for, as you can see, I didn't even update this. It doesn't have my Vileplume changes, but this is what the stat blocks were looking at before, before I traded for Vileplume. But I think the biggest problem in this weakness thing is I have 5 weaknesses to water types. Actually, it doesn't go down, but I do add a resistance to water types, so I'm kind of okay with that. I feel like having this many repeat types might end up biting me in the ass, but I had trades to make if it ends up being a problem. But overall, I think that this is a solid team. Anyway, thanks for watching. This is Maui Goomba signing out.